It's an interesting exercise to wonder what our world would be like had it not been for the colonial onslaught that so profoundly changed our generations. Those events that placed this portion of our story into motion, those events that call us now to work towards social justice. But is there something else to wonder? Something we have all been taught to believe is unthinkable? As with the 2 points that open my talk, I beg your indulgence if this is something that you have already heard before. What would we do if in the year 2020, only a couple years from now, this American culture was suddenly subdued by another culture that believed theirs was a superior way of living? Their God was the one true God, their language the only worthwhile speech, their history the only one that mattered. What would happen if this young American society, less than 250 years old, suddenly was rocked by cultural trauma? It's unthinkable, but let's suspend our disbelief for a moment to consider what would happen to our grandchildren's children if in the span of the next 50 or 60 years a killing blow was delivered to the way of life we now know. What would happen? What would we do? We could no longer speak the English language. Schools, businesses, stores, everything would be conducted in some new language we didn't understand. Our laws would be swept away. No more regulations, acts of Congress, municipal codes, no more executive tweets. No more laws as we now know them. No more doctrine of European discovery. No more American manifest destiny. Everything would be done according to some new legal system that we didn't understand and that was created and enforced in someone else's favor under a doctrine brought with them from some faraway place, a doctrine that conferred upon themselves the right, the power, the authority, the privilege to take what they pleased, to subdue, to dominate, to enslave, to teach. Our religions would be abolished. Bible studies and communion and concepts like American exceptionalism would be seen as prehistory, evil. There would be no more "in God we trust" on our money. In fact, there would be no more money. The new currency would be in the hands of others. Our bank accounts, our property, our belongings would suddenly be of no value to us, and most of our remaining wealth would be taken. Our standards of beauty would be ridiculed. Our art would be trivialized. Our literature would become folklore and superstition. Our philosophers and great thinkers would be described as unsophisticated, quaint storytellers. All of our place names would be changed. Our own names would be changed. We would be forced to celebrate peculiar holidays. We would be taught the exploits of someone else's heroes. Our children would be taken from us and sent far away where they would be forced to forget English, forced to dress in someone else's fashion, and forced to learn trades that prepared them for servitude. Taken from our influence, they would be given unpronounceable new names in a foreign language. They would not learn the history of their country, and they would receive the strong message that whatever they did, they would never be as good as those who were members of the newly dominant culture. Before long, no one would be learning English as a first language. Before long, our legal and educational and spiritual and social systems and beliefs would disappear. The day-to-day lives of your grandchildren's children would be characterized by unequal rates of incarceration, unequal rates of educational dropout, unequal rates of parental termination, unequal rates of suicide, addiction, poverty, depression, anger, shame, and all the other inevitable effects of cultural trauma. There would be no lack of reports and meetings and task forces and training devoted to addressing the problems of their failed assimilation. Unthinkable.